Welcome back to Inside Voices, a podcast. This is episode 7 or 8.
Okay, we're going to get right into this. We're just talking about jobs, and we've talked about this previously, I think.
Tell me, Daddy.
How long ago did we talk about this? 2-3 weeks ago?
It had to be at least 3 minutes ago.
Okay, that was a different conversation. What we talked about before was how you graduate with bachelor's or master's, whatever, you start at minimum wage. But now we're talking about how you're never going to be able to afford a house or your retirement on the current wages. But you don't just start low. Companies now, since there's so many people in the pipeline graduating, so many people lined up for your job, they can just replace you for your rate. So no matter how good you are at your job, you still don't really have job security.
You have to be incredibly good at your job. And not
just
any job. Wait, you have to be incredibly good at a high-level job.
I was talking there. Had a good thought.
You have to be incredibly good. Because if you're like really good as a cashier, it doesn't matter how good you are as a cashier. They're not giving you a raise significant enough to mean anything.
But okay, on that raises thing is no matter how good you are, though, a company won't give you a raise till either you ask for it until you tell them you're leaving. They're not going to voluntarily.
Yeah. So
give
one
you
of my
a raise.
friends was working at one of my friends was working at a company. I'm not going to make any names or anything, but so they loved him. They loved him there. They paid him whatever, blah blah blah. He got his first raise. Like he worked there for like 2.5, 3 years. His first raise was 25 cents after the year. They loved him. He was one of the fastest promoted supervisors they've ever had, and his raises were pennies.
Because you're so easily replaceable.
Yeah, so he literally, in order to actually get a real raise of more than 25 cents, he had to threaten to leave multiple times. Okay, so that fast forward now to the end of his time there, right? He got another job for a much bigger company. Well, not much bigger.
I know what you're talking about. This company has big green bins, right?
So he got another job for another company who has cars that run on electric. I don't know. And they're paying him literally way more. And so when he told the
okay, but
office,
how much is way more?
Signing bonus was $15K.
Okay.
And it was, I think, about it was 10 to 15,000 more per year.
Okay.
So that's a pretty significant.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, it's a big jump. So he told the office manager, whoever was there, the supervisor of everyone, that he was going to leave. Blah blah blah. This is that, and she said, I don't want to lose you. And then she offered him everything he wanted before he told her that he got a new job. If you cared that much, why wouldn't you just offer them the money that you can offer them right away? It's like schemey bullshit.
So okay, on to that though, because what we're saying is that you on the current wages and stuff, and how slow these promotions happen, and how small the promotions are. You never do afford a house in retirement. So they say that number where it used to be you need $2 million to comfortably retire.
It's higher than that now.
But it's okay. It's higher because the cost of living is higher, but the wages are lower, or not that they're lower. It's just that we're offering lower wages to more people. So the amount of people making more than the lower wage, let's say minimum wage, to $10 above that, it's a huge group of people. You'll never be able to afford that. How are you going to? Your lifetime earnings are going to be $2 million.
Yeah, and the problem is, like, what people don't understand is that as population increases, and now with the ability to apply over the internet, you're having people from India, you're having people from different places like that, like predominantly India too, where we live, who are able to apply online for the jobs. And these people, they want to leave India. They don't want to be there anymore, so they're going to take jobs that you necessarily wouldn't for pay that you necessarily
wouldn't.
Thing.
So a job that you want $32 an hour to do, they'll do it for $16, $18 because they get to live here for it.
And they won't take holidays off. They'll work on the weekends.
No,
they'll
they're
work
harder
overtime.
workers in general.
They are because
they're raised to be harder workers.
Not only that, but they come from a place where life is much more difficult. Right? We have grown up in a society where we have an idea of what we want. They grew up in a place where that idea is completely fictional. There's
I think
no way.
The way to fix that though is what we do is we start moving to India and taking those jobs for even less. So instead of 10 cents an hour, couple cents, 2 or 3 cents an hour.
But if you don't understand the concept, if you look at a place like China, where they have literally billions of people in such a small isolated area,
all they got to do is each person's got to give me $1, and we don't even have to talk.
People
about
work
this.
for pennies on the dollar because they can afford not to hire you because they have a million more people who will do the exact same thing.
Hundreds of millions.
And that's it. It's either you work in these sweatshop environments, which to them that's all they can get, or you don't have a job and you literally can't live. It's that simple.
what we were saying too is people in this generation are they're not affording houses, and it's actually because of the wages, not because spending habits are huge.
Well,
They say that this generation actually is saving more than I think most or all of the previous
this
generations.
is more applicable to where we live because in America, housing and stuff like that is much cheaper. Like much.
Well,
cheaper.
in certain areas,
Yeah.
it's pennies. On the
Like you can
dollar.
get houses for 100K there still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you can get a house for 80K
Here-
in certain areas.
here it's like
800.
you're getting paid
900,
like you.
1,000.
It's maybe in some places you'll think, oh wow, it's a high minimum wage. So our minimum wage is about $15.
No, it's $14 an hour, but in American, so before anyone thinks that's a lot of money, in American dollars, it's about $9 an hour.
Yeah.
Now instead of in those areas where minimum wage is $9 an hour, you can buy a house for 90 to 180 grand a year. In the areas where our minimum wage, which is everywhere, is $14.50 an hour, your cheapest house is $500,000.
You
Cheapest
guys,
house.
and
Average is
places like that-
800,000 in the GTA.
Literally.
And it's
And
higher
places,
now.
in places like that in America, where the real estate's much lower, there's a lot of people on the internet who are like, oh, do real estate invest, become a landlord, blah blah blah. It's literally impossible to become a landlord here because it's so hard to get a cash flow positive piece of property because of how expensive it is just to own the house. There's no way that you can buy 10 properties and profit off of that.
For let's say the average house in the GTA, which is $800,000+.
The GTA is the Greater Toronto Area for anyone
So-
not wondering.
800 plus. I think right now it's almost. I think it's about $1 million now.
What?
Because the past year the average house prices went up to about I think 900 or $1 million.
Where in the GTA?
GTA.
You can still get something from 700K up.
Okay, so your down payment at that point is only what $200,000.
What, I don't know. You could do 5%, I think.
Okay, so 5% of $1 million is $50K. So let's say 700. 5% of yeah, it's $50K.
This is the math.
So you
podcast.
put let's say 35, 40K, which is actually affordable. But for 700K, if you're
Yeah, but
only
then
putting-
the thing
you're
is,
putting
if you,
5% down, then your mortgage insurance and all that on top of it, your monthlies are
It's
like
huge.
$5,000-$6,000 more.
I don't know. But it's
It'd be
it's,
5,000 or
it's,
6,000
it's so like
a month.
You can skim by and do 5%, but you're gonna be house broke immediatly. You're not gonna be able to afford anything.
When if you're buying a house at 700K plus, you need 25-30% down. Minimum.
So I know someone who bought a house that was about 700K, maybe
more than
750K. He afforded it. So this guy, he works like no one I've ever seen before.
Short days.
3 hours a day.
Half day
But
Fridays.
he works when he started, and for the first like 2 or 3 years or whatever, he was working like 60 to 70 plus hours a week. He is a technician of sorts, so he gets paid pretty decent. It's in the 30s now, I think.
Which is honestly not decent. It's decent because the hours he works.
Yeah, exactly. If he were to work normal hours,
It's nothing.
he wouldn't be able to.
That's 65, 70 grand a year.
Yeah, it's the amount of overtime. That's what people don't understand. People are like, okay, people who aren't making 100K a year or more are making that much money either by being lucky and having a decent role, or from what I've seen, predominantly working literally 65 hours a week.
Hold on, these office jobs right now, you can make $100,000 a year on $25 an hour. You just have to work 65 hours a week.
Yeah.
With
You have to-
overtime, with overtime rate and stuff, you can make $100,000 a year. But you're literally working
all day.
all day,
All day,
and
every
night.
day.
12-hour days plus Saturdays.
Yeah.
You'll make $100,000 a year. So this is the problem. Now they do these things. What is the average wage there? Well, all these guys are filling a survey out and they made $150,000 last year.
Yeah.
So now online it's saying average pay is 100 to 150 grand. So these people are going to college for this because they're going, holy crap, pay is 100 to 150 grand. They get their first job, it's $14 an hour. 5 years down the road, they're making $18 an hour. How are you making 100? But it's because the overtime, right? So they need to advertise these jobs if it was 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, not 52 weeks a year.
Okay, let me
52
ask
weeks
you a
off.
simple question. How do you feel? Because you've
Amazing.
been working on and off. You've
Amazing.
been working odd jobs here and there. How do you
Running
feel about the
companies.
idea of working more than 40 hours a week
No.
consistently for over a year?
Because hold on, so this is my thoughts on that. Before I say my thoughts on that, I'll put it this way: these 40-hour work weeks are rare now.
No, for sure.
It's 44 minimum. No, and it's way back when we were kids and before we were even born, a 40-hour work week was actually a 40-hour work week. You were there from 8 to 4. That included your lunch. Then it became 8 to 4:30 because now
They want the free lunch.
Now because your lunch is unpaid, so now you got to make that time up. So now it's 8 to 4:30. So now you're actually there 8.5 hours a day. On most jobs, that's way too little work. So now it's 9 hours. But even when you work a 9-10 hour day, they want that 30-minute unpaid lunch to get made up. So now they're adding half an hour. So if you're working a 10-hour day, you're working 8 to 6 would be 10 hours. It's 8 to 6:30. Because even though you're there working 10 hours, they want that extra half hour. Because for some reason, the company doesn't care about you enough to say you get a 30-minute unpaid break, or you get a 30-minute paid break. Some companies are. All that.
I haven't seen any of them.
No, I haven't seen a single one. I've never had a job like that. So now you're working 44 to 50 hours a week, but you're actually there for a 44-hour week. You're actually there, 47 and a half hours, and a 50 you're there 53, 54 hours. Why is it here we work these crazy hours in Norway and France and all these European countries that are so far ahead of us, and they have 22-year-olds that have their own houses almost paid off because their labor market makes more sense. Why are they all cutting back the hours? We're adding hours because our wages are so low. Yeah. And so you have to work those hours. And our
I think you hit
so
something.
High.
I think you hit something there. I think that there is a mechanism that they're doing now where they're not increasing wages because they're seeing that people now are working even more.
So now, hold on. Now you don't have to have 2 different shifts of people, or you can get rid of a couple employees. It costs the company less because you're working more, doing more work for this rate. Whereas instead of having to hire another person, they're only paying you with overtime 10, 15 grand more a year. That guy, to hire a new guy, that's 60 grand more a year.
And not only that, but it costs them money because of the insurance,
exactly.
all that stuff.
Benefits cost a ridiculous amount of money. So anyways.
And it's drama too because you have to handle the person.
Exactly. But so this is the thing. In Norway, and actually it's mainly in Scandinavian countries, Sweden and all that, now they're doing first of all 4-day work weeks. They've cut it back to 4-day work weeks because how are you going to say that you work 5 days and you have to work the occasional Saturday because 5 days is not enough. You're not living at working because that 50 hours you're doing Monday to Friday plus those unpaid lunches, which is whatever, it'd be 52 and a half hours that you spend at work Monday to Friday. That's not enough. You have to come in you have mandatory overtime every second Saturday or whatever. Whereas in those Scandinavian countries, they're going, well, we're going to do a 4-day work week, and then the ones that aren't doing 4-day work week. The average work week there, the standard work week, is 35 hours a week. 35. So even when they do 4-hour work, here, you can get a 4-day work week, 1 in every 100,000 jobs you look at, it's still 4 10 hours.
And they're going to consider, so this is the thing. You do a 4-day work week, they're going to consider it part-time, and you're not getting benefits.
Yeah, and this is the thing. You'd have to work 4 10-hour days, and then those 10-hour days, they're not just 10-hour days. We went over this. It's 4 now 10.5-hour days. You're there for 10.5 hours, plus your travel. So let's say your shift is 8 to 6. You're leaving your house at 7 or 6:30, and then you're getting home at 7:30, 8 o'clock. Where's your day there? Because you wasted 4 full days getting to and from work and at work, you get Friday off.
That's what people don't understand
it's not
too.
Worth it.
You're not just going to work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6
That's
or
just
9
your
to
paid
7.
hours.
That's you're out work. You need to wake up and you need to prepare yourself to go to work. You can't just roll out of bed and go to work. They're going to fire you. You need to shower, you need to get yourself ready. I'm gonna say it's gonna take the average person anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour.
Well, imagine
an
people
hour
have
typically.
kids.
Yeah, and if you have kids, it's even worse. Then you have to wake up 2 hours early.
But this
you
is
need
the
to get
thing,
them
right?
prepared.
But this is where it's all screwed up because even in rural towns in France and Norway and all these places, you can get a good paying job that's 10 minutes away from home. Here, you live anywhere outside of the GTA. Anywhere.
You can't get a job.
You have a 45 to an hour minute commute to somewhere that'll pay more than minimum wage.
Yeah, so now if you're commuting an hour and you need we'll be
but
generous.
now you have more expenses because you're...
Yeah, we'll be generous. You need 30 minutes to get to work, okay? Or to prepare to get to work, okay? Then you need 40 minutes to an hour. We'll just say an hour. So it's an hour and 30 minutes to get to work. Traffic on the way home is going to almost double that time. So you're going to be probably driving a minimum an hour and a half. A minimum an hour and a half. So now to get there and back, it's taking you 3 hours. And if they're going to get you to work a 9 to 6, maybe 9 hours, because that's only half an hour more than you're there for usually. Yeah. So let's say they're going to make you work 9.5 hours. Okay, they're going to make you work an extra hour.
In an office job, that's typical now, and in a trades job, it's 10 plus
so
hours.
So it's 9.5 hours plus 3 hours just to get there.
No, okay, and then on top of that, so your 9.5 hour day was from, let's say, 8 to 5:30. You left the house at 6:30, or let's say 7, and then you got home at 7, let's say, ish, because that'll be an hour and a half drive when we add half hour. Okay.
Do you have kids? Or you don't have kids?
No, you don't have kids. This is the rare occurrence. You don't have kids. You don't really have a ton of expenses, right? Okay, you get home. You just had to spend how many hours on the road? So that's expenses on the car, right? You gas money, and then oil change and all that. But you were just away from home. You didn't get home until 7 o'clock, so there's a good chance you had to go out and get food. You had to go buy food, so you have more expenses. But you also probably went out and bought lunch because you didn't have time to make lunch yesterday. Because you got home at 7 o'clock, you probably had to shower.
You just spent enough money to get groceries for the whole week in one day.
The whole week, right? But here they don't let you do that because you're working so much that you can't. Not many people can go home, get home at 7 o'clock, and shower, do whatever you have to do because there is stuff you have to do. You have to go grocery shopping and do stuff, and then make food, which takes half an hour to an hour, or whatever. They want you to eat healthy and all this stuff. What time are you supposed to be going to bed at? You have
and then
an hour or two when you get home.
They say this is a big thing. I think we talked about this before. They say you absolutely there's this fictional idea that was created by people who have money that rich people don't sleep. But when you actually look at the research, and Jeff Bezos has said it, so many billionaires have said it, so many successful people have said it, you need to sleep about 7 to 8 hours a day to keep fresh.
Your brain's not going to function.
You might have a day where you have 4 hours, whatever. But you consistently have 6 to 8 hours of sleep. You need this, and on top of needing it just to function properly, the rate at which you develop dementia, if you're sleeping under 6 hours consistently, is like 35 to 40% higher than if you were sleeping like you were supposed to. So if you're actually getting 8 hours of sleep, you have only like 3 hours in the day to do something.
Barely though,
because
you really don't have that many hours a day.
You don't.
Because let's say you want to go to bed at 9:30 so you can wake up at you got to be out of the house at 7 to start at 8. Most 99% of jobs you have, because that's just the commute, right? You got to wake up at 7, meaning, or you got to leave at 7, meaning you got to wake up at 6:30 to 6 to 6:30 typically, because it's going to take you half an hour to an hour to get ready. You're going to probably want to go to bed around 10 o'clock latest. 10:30 latest. You get home at 7. By the time you do anything, you get like an hour or two of actual like just relaxed time before you go to bed.
If you think that you can live a happy life off of an hour and a half for like 2
what are you working
days
that, What are you working that many hours for if you have an hour or two during the day to enjoy your life?
Yeah, what are you like? What so you're basically
what you're doing is you're living at work so you can do nothing.
You're essentially living for the maybe if you're lucky 2 weeks of vacation. That's what you're living for, or the Christmas break. Like, what are you living for? What is the point of working all those hours if you have zero free time?
And here's the issue here: you work all those hours. You know what your reward is? You make a little bit more. You know what your reward is? You get taxed more, because the government feels like they deserve 35-40% of your income just because you worked so much. They deserve to take. Can you imagine me walking up to you on the sidewalk and saying, "Can I have 30% of what you made today just because?"
And then you have to pay 14-15% on everything. So you're really paying.
You're paying 67. You're probably spending 60, 65, 70% of your income because everything you do with your money is taxed. You're probably spending 65% of your income.
And you can have
just taxes.
Well, what do you have? You haven't really said anything. What do you think? What do you think of everything? Because we're all really trying to figure out what we're gonna do in our careers right now.
But the problem is, and that's because we can't just choose what we want to do, because 25 years ago you could have done that and made an insane living doing it. You could have made millions of dollars doing anything. Now you can't do that. Now what you want to do, there's no money in it.
Well, you can do that, but there's this thing. So like, let's say I like fixing bikes. Over the coronavirus, I don't know, I like it, right? It's fun. Can I make a career out of it? I guess I can try, but this is the stump. If I work for people, I'm probably barely gonna make a living my whole life. The only way for me to actually make a living out of it is if I open up my own bike shop. So now we're not talking about being a bike mechanic. We're talking about being a business owner, entrepreneur, which is a completely different animal.
Okay, now we got a business tax, lease, insurance for a business, all this stuff that now
it's the risk.
They tax you for also being for taking a risk. Now they want to fine you for that. Basically, they're like, look. You got all this stuff you got to pay for now, business insurance.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And people think that you can just make a business with a snap of your
That's
fingers.
what people say. They say, man, do what you want to do, and then the money will follow. In what world is that true?
You can go online.
30
and
years
ago,
see maybe
the 40 people that you see in the hour that you're searching. Oh, they're all successful. You see those 40 people succeed, but you're not seeing the 40,000 who failed. Like, it's slim pickings, man. But anyway, what do you think? What do you think of everything?
Well, I think this episode has shown where you guys are both truly passionate.
I'm talking where you are, not where we are.
I know. Well, I think it's harder for me to relate as much because the field that I'm trying to get a job in is more like mental health based, so they actually try and care about like
yeah,
your
but have you
mental
looked
health
at the
and your
long-term wages?
time off and whatever. My field is, you can go down a lot of different paths. So it's
Yeah, I'm
kinda
saying,
hard
so
to-
how would you feel if this was your path, this was what you're passionate about, but they told you
50
the highest
grand
you'll ever
tops.
make is $60,000 by the time you're 80 years
Yeah,
old?
it's horrible.
Exactly.
That's disgusting.
That's the problem.
But hold on though, you know what's funny though? At least some job like that will be like, okay, you know what, you're working 50 hours a week, all this nonsense, you spend your whole day here, we'll give you benefits. A lot of companies will not even get benefits for their employees and things like that, because it's not a legal requirement. They don't have to have benefits for full-time employees.
I don't know the exact laws on that, but I think he's right to an extent.
Well, I am right.
But yeah,
I've
so,
worked full-time without benefits.
but what do you think?
I think it's disgusting. I wish the world cared more about enjoying your life, not working.
And
It
that's
just
what-
doesn't make sense. What is everyone working so many hours and shit for?
But
when
that's
you-
what. So
there's
that's
no
what
time to do
people.
anything?
That's what. So there's now this thing. There's now this divide because the young people are saying to themselves, "Why the fuck are we working 70 hours a week to barely live, and then having to struggle through the first 40 years of our life or 50 years of our life to enjoy being free when we're decrepit?"
Now,
Like,
here's
what's the
another
point?
thing: is what should actually be the thing, right? It doesn't matter how many hours you work a week. This is something that should be mandated. If you work for every 200 hours you work a year, you get a week off, or every 150 hours you work a year, you get a week off.
But the thing is, now people are going to see that and say, "Wait, that's now you're teetering into socialism, where they're forcing people to they're forcing like a law, labor laws like that, which are like more like."
But that's just some workers' rights. You just kind of need that, right? Because you can't. There's companies that'll say you get 1 week of vacation, if that. You
Well,
get
there's a
1
lot of
week
companies
vacation.
now that are taking advantage of the market and saying you don't get a week of
You
vacation for
don't
your first
get
year.
vacation, yeah.
Because they know their turnover is so high because of how badly the roles are that 60%, 70% of the people are going to quit in their first 3 months. So they know we don't have to give vacation to anybody.
Or benefits
Yeah.
or anything. Just work for
If
us.
you think that this whole 3-month probation thing is
that's
smart,
useless.
the
That's
only reason it's
stupid.
smart is because it protects the business from having to pay extra for you for the first 3 months because people are quitting their
They don't
jobs
care about
so
you.
much now. Like I feel like people are quitting because I see it everywhere now. They don't like where they are. They're quitting. There's this old mentality like we know people like this where they're that's life. That's the working life. Like that's what comes with being an adult and working. No, this is what you have accepted as life.
But here's the thing: a lot of people that say that this is just the work life, this is how it is. If you put them in, if you switch roles, you reverse roles, and you put them in a new position like that, where they had to experience what it's actually like now, they're also quitting their jobs.
Oh, because
They're
these
not
are predominantly old people.
they're not just mentally they think they're these superhumans because they survived through a completely different time. When they get realize that the majority of people are going through this. So they think they're not the majority for some reason. If they're in the same shoes, roles reversed, and this is the era they grew up in, and this is them, they're in the majority because the majority is the majority.
Yeah.
It's not just you just didn't work like I do or whatever. It's just not how it works.
No, there's this thing, and there's ways you can fix it. Like we can have these wages. These wages are fine. Like to people who make $7 minimum wage. When you hear us saying that 50,000 isn't going to get you anything, you're probably like, "What in God's name are you talking about?" It's all dependent on where you live.
Oh, if
and
you
the
live in
economy.
the middle of West Virginia in a rural town, you can get a house for $75,000.
Yeah, so it's
with
not,
hydro.
So you
and
have
everything.
to take everything with a pinch of salt and understand that everywhere is different. But this is the thing: if they want to have this be like the norm, because making this little money is not acceptable. Like you can't live. You literally can't. If they want to have this kind of thing, this housing bubble that we are experiencing and we have been experiencing for literally like 5-10 years, it has to pop. You can't have
It won't.
this coronavirus has shot up housing prices in where we live in Ontario. Literally, I think over 25%.
It's
In 1
unbelievable.
year. Houses were already $1 million. So if you're taking a 25% increase, houses are now 1.25
They're
million.
going above asking still.
So, and they're going above asking. So not only are the average house is going up $250,000 in 1 year, the wages haven't moved.
The wages will never move. The wages. Here's a perfect example. Other than wages, has everything else followed inflation? No, it's beat inflation. The prices of everything else has surpassed inflation.
Oh,
what about wages?
tenfold.
What about wages?
Way down.
Not even remotely close.
Way down.
Not even remotely close. A decimal.
I think they said something like if minimum wage
Like
was
28 bucks an hour or
yeah,
something
we
like
would
that.
be we'd be mid-20s.
Yeah, I think it's $28 an hour here.
So this is the problem. If the housing market is
It'd have been
increasing,
doubled.
let's say the housing market is increasing by 10% a year, which I don't think is unrealistic at all, right? 10%, 15% a year in popular areas, but the wages are increasing only based on inflation.
0.10%.
Maybe the company raises you in inflation, so 1 to 2% or whatever.
No companies do that anymore.
You're making 8% less than everything is getting more expensive. How is that going to help
See,
you?
but hold on though. Here's the thing. So you work these crazy. See, this is the crazy part.
It's not
With minimum
It's
wage.
not.
Yeah, he's got a tear. With minimum wage, okay, you can work 100 hours a week, 60 or 70 hours a week, whatever it is. You still can't afford a house with the current housing market. You literally can't. That's not even a joke.
You can't even afford
You
rent.
can't. You can't. Right? Because you just don't make that much money. If you work 80 hours a week on minimum wage here, if you work 80 hours a week on minimum wage here, I think you make.
Why you have a prairie dog as your
Because it's a sick prairie dog. So you make 65 grand a year, right? You make like 65 grand a year. If minimum wage had actually followed inflation like it's supposed to, the whole reason.
That's what minimum
inflation
wage
exists.
is. Minimum wage is the lowest amount of money you can
Right?
be
So
paid
if it
and
had
still
followed it and
survive.
it was at $26 an hour, you could buy a house on minimum wage.
Yeah.
You can actually afford life on minimum wage working those hours.
Minimum. The idea behind minimum wage doesn't make sense anymore. What even is the minimum wage?
Right now, minimum wage is not even the minimum living wage. What it is now is it's protection for it's the smallest amount of protection for employees so that they can't pay you just nickels and dimes. Because trust me, if minimum wage didn't exist,
Oh my
they
God.
want you to work 100 hours a week for $6 an hour. That's just how it is.
They would charge you that, and they would say it's justified too.
It's justified because that's the job you're doing.
The problem is that it doesn't matter what the minimum wage is because people are going to watch us and say, well, if you work hard, you'll get promotions and this and that. It's like,
It's not true.
Because the competition is so steep nowadays, that's not necessarily true. Of course, if you work hard, you're going to be privy to promotions and this and that. But at the end of the day, in order for you to be considered at this point, it's not like you can do your job well 40 hours a week, you go home, that's it. If you put in the overtime, if you work those 55, 60 hours a week, if you put on a smile every day, if you don't miss any work, you have to be perfect
this is
and
the thing.
kill yourself
You're still
to
not
get that
guaranteed it.
promotion, and you're still not guaranteed it, and even the promotion isn't enough money to justify giving away literally 80% of your awake time.
But this is the thing too, is what people don't realize when they say you just got to work hard and you get promoted within the company or whatever. This is the thing. There's the positions you'd get promoted to. There's very minuscule amount of those.
Oh, of course.
The bottom feeder jobs, the ones that are getting paid the what they call entry level, that they have you doing more than entry level things for.
They have
Entry level is their
6
excuse.
people's jobs.
Entry level is their
Yeah.
excuse to pay you nothing, right? 2 weeks into an entry level job, it's no longer entry level. You're doing 4 people's jobs. You're doing your manager's jobs half the time because they worked their way into that position. Remember,
And then they slack.
yeah, there's 5 people in those management roles and stuff at these small to medium-sized companies. There's 25, 30 people, 40 people at the entry level.
And on top of that, from what I've experienced, these companies, a lot of the times, they're going to be understaffed because they can't retain anyone because people are burning out. They're not liking the environment. So not only are you working all these other things, you're actually doing 2 people's jobs, and these 2 people are overworked in the beginning. So you're overloaded 2 people's jobs.
Here's my this is my final thought. If they're paying you minimum wage, if it's truly an entry level job, how come you get a week of vacation, the manager gets 4 weeks of vacation? How come they can afford for him to be gone for 4 weeks, but you maximum is a week, and sometimes they'll be like, man, we really need you for this. But you're entry level, and the manager can take a month off, no problem. The company begins as usual without him there. But apparently, you cannot take more than a week off because the company falls apart without you.
Yeah,
That's the way they make
the
it
last
seem.
company I was at was so reliant on their employees. If one of like my equal roles of what I was, if one of them were to go on vacation for 3 days, it was unconditional. Someone who had to work doubles because there was no one or no way to cover that employee.
Which is unbelievable.
That doesn't make sense. If that's how your business is working, it's not
But
working.
hold on, isn't that managers in that during those times, managers should be the ones to
Covering
cover
the role.
They have
But
to
they
cover
don't.
the role. That's a part of being a manager.
But they don't.
This is the thing. typically when you actually get promoted, the way it used to be in all that is
More responsibility.
yeah, you get more responsibility.
Yeah.
Now you get promoted for less responsibility.
Now you get promoted and they put you in a position where you can give your responsibility away.
It's like a reward.
Yeah.
So how is it entry level if when you're entry level you have the most responsibilities you'll ever have within that company, or when you're entry level?
Yeah.
When you're a manager, you can offload your things to those entry level positions. So it doesn't make sense.
It's a
It
broken
used to just be
system.
you got the only reason to get promoted was for more pay. It was harder work, more work, but it was more pay. Now it's more pay, less work. That should never be like that.
Now, obviously, this is not 100% applicable to everything. Maybe some jobs
every
they do
job's
overload.
different, of course.
But this is at least what the three of us have been seeing and trending in completely different
and
areas.
we've been in different areas. I've been in so many different areas.
We have completely unrelated areas, and this is the same thing we're seeing. If you go on social media, you'll see the same kind of sentiment. Everyone is kind of experiencing the exact same thing.
And the one thing I noticed through, because I've been in multiple different fields, is that they all. I've been in a factory, I've been in construction, and I've been in an office. They all treat their employees equally as shitty.
Garbage. They don't care about you at all. They don't
Equally
care about
shitty.
you. The fact is, you could have someone in your family die. Okay, you could have someone in your family die. I'm talking about personal experience. I've seen this. You could have someone in your family die, and you have to take off 3 days of work.
That's 3 days too many.
So once it hits that 3-day mark, a lot of companies will expect you to go. You cannot come back to work until you go to the doctors and you bring home a sick note. The fuck am I getting a sick note for?
Exactly.
What the fuck am I? What are you
I
talking
was never
about?
sick.
What, like, I didn't come to work because of the cold.
Yeah.
I just experienced loss. Like, what do you mean? It doesn't make any sense. So now you have a lot of people. Someone dies in their family, and they almost force themselves to go back to work because you can't. If you lose those sick days, you have no more sick days for the rest of the year.
And you know
That's it.
what's crazy is a lot of people that have never experienced like shitty job like that. They'll say just quit your job. There's so many other jobs like that.
And then you have other people who say just learn the maths, learn the sciences. Okay. Do you understand how many people are on this planet? If everyone worked the maths and the sciences, who the fuck is gonna work all the other jobs?
Yeah, exactly.
You're just gonna have nobody working any other job except for maths and sciences.
It's funny how reliant everything is on the entry-level bottom feeder positions. It's
Society
unbelievable.
runs on entry-level jobs, and the thing
But
is,
this
they'll
is
peg,
proof that it's not entry-level.
yeah, and they'll peg everyone coming out of school, coming not out of school, maybe have you dropped out, graduating university, graduating college, graduating with a master's. They literally take you, throw you into entry-level jobs, and you run society.
Yeah.
That's it.
Try this. Get a job, quit on the first day. They'll say they won't care. They'll say okay.
They won't even call you.
If
Did
they,
nothing.
yeah, they won't even reply. If they actually care, they say, "Is there anything we can do to change that to keep you?" Because we just went through this whole hiring process. But what they know is there's 1,000 guys in the pipeline. Who
Or
cares?
don't even quit after the first day. Work there a month and then quit. So you got some training.
And then it'll be a slap in the face because they still won't message you, still won't care about it. They'll say, "Okay, are you quitting after your day to day, or like what's the deal here?"
You
It's
got on. At the end of the day, you need to figure
You're
out
a number.
something that you're gonna enjoy, because at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy it, you'll got one life.
This
It's
is the
gonna
thing.
sound cheesy, but when you die, that's it.
This is the thing. The only reason you have to do something you enjoy is because your pay is going to be the same or very, very close to it doing something you don't
Exactly.
like.
At the end of the day,
$3 to $4 an hour doing something you hate versus something you like is not worth it because
It's
$3 to $4 an hour is literally nothing.
If you work something you like, the pay might be shit for the first couple of years, but you're probably gonna like it. You're probably gonna get better at it, and at the end of the day, it's probably gonna equal out to what you were doing and the shit you didn't like. And you're not gonna have to pay for therapy. You're not gonna have to pay for so many vacations. You're not gonna have to pay so much retail therapy. You're not gonna have to drive so far to get to work. You're not gonna have to buy that expensive car because your coworker just bought a BMW and you think you need the same thing.
You can't be seen in a Mazda.
Like, Jesus
You
Christ.
can't be seen in a Honda because he has a
Society
Maserati.
is fucking busted.
That's the
Work a job you like.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the title. Work a job you like. Find a job you like.
and that's it.
Any closing statements from the peanut gallery?
Well, I was thinking the whole time, like, this is why mental health, anything is.
Oh yeah, isn't
through
that
the
funny too?
roof.
We have
Finish, right?
Well, that was it. I was just gonna say that's
yeah,
why
we
it's
have
through
all
the
these
roof.
mental health issues, and what's crazy is people can't pinpoint exactly
Oh my
what.
God! In
They cannot pinpoint.
This is crazy. When
They
I was
can't
growing
pinpoint
up,
what?
I can
they
pinpoint
can't
it right here.
pinpoint what the cause is.
I can pinpoint it right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I was
Life.
growing up and I was observing my parents, my friends' parents, the adults, it didn't seem too bad. No one seemed too bad off, and I didn't really hear the word
No,
mental
they were
health.
home. They were home pretty
Yeah,
often.
I wasn't hearing anxiety. I wasn't hearing these keywords. Nowadays, I literally
everywhere.
can't find a single person who isn't suffering from mental health. I can't. I literally can't. No.
It's unbelievable that nobody has been like, maybe we should change the labor laws. That might be the easiest thing to change to see if anything happens, because maybe working 60 hours a week for $14 an hour is not good.
And one of the
with 1
things
week
that bothers
vacation.
me the most is the micro time management, to the point where they'll literally tell you, okay, go in your 30 minutes right now. And it's like,
right now.
when I was in the middle of
that's
something.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of something.
You gotta go right now.
No, you gotta go right now. Or sometimes you'll be so busy and there'll be so much pressure on you, you can't even take your 30-minute break.
No, you can't.
Which is illegal.
One
Yeah,
more time for the people in the back.
Which is illegal.
But it's so crazy. They've done tests and they've shown how productive a 4-hour workday is. It's as productive as a 10-hour
Because
workday.
this is the thing. This is my closing. I think that people are going to say this is a conspiracy theory, but I think it's because they see people wanting to be free from it. So people are having more side hustles. People are experimenting more with like work from home type shit. And they're like, if we give them 3 days a week to do whatever they want to do, chances are we're going to lose a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they're going to find things that
We
they
need
like
to
doing
keep
better.
them here so they have no time to try anything else.
And that's what they're doing. Their overtime is now becoming a part, like a socially acceptable thing.
Overtime is so rare usually. Now, I don't know a single person that does not work overtime.
When they go, I haven't been to an interview yet where they ask you, where they don't ask you, are you okay with overtime?
Oh, okay. Here's something. On my very last job, a part of the employee onboarding package was a paper that you had to sign off.
Oh,
that,
accepting overtime.
That you will work at this overtime.
Yeah.
Because legally they're not
They
allowed
have
doing
to.
it.
They have to.
But
have
if you
sign
don't
something.
sign that, they're not gonna. They're just gonna. You're not
You're
gonna
not
hire.
hired. You're not hired. They're gonna just get the next guy who's gonna take.
Because apparently, I think it's 50 hours a week. You have to think about that for a second. They're making you sign that you're gonna work because legally you can work 50 hours a week. They're getting you
I think
sign
the
away.
maximum you can do is 60.
So, but yeah, this is what I'm saying. But they want you to sign so you can work more than that.
Oh yeah.
Because 60 is not enough, and they won't hire you if you don't sign
Yeah.
that because 60 is not enough.
Yep.
Anyways, that's the final closing thoughts. It's crazy.
Pay your employees more, find a job you like, or
Cut the
it's-
hours in half, double the pay, and watch productivity will go
Oh
up
man, I swear to God.
so much.
If they increase the pay and they reduce the workload and they gave people more freedom, I think companies would be fucking shook.
We'd be like all the
Shooketh.
Scandinavian
They'd be
countries.
shooketh. They what?
We'd be like the Scandinavian countries that
We'd
have
have fucking
no mental
We'd
health
have flying
issues.
cars. We would have a fucking colony on the goddamn Mars already.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's yeah.
thank
It's
you for coming to our TED Talk. Remember, like, subscribe, comment. 2 comments if you're feeling generous.
Yep.
Tell your mom about us. Tell your dad about us.
On your aunt.
And your aunt. Thank you very much.